Very good afternoon. Welcome to Microsoft Ignite and my session. How is everybody? Good? Yes? Fantastic. Okay, I want to ask you a very, very simple question. Are there any Star Trek fans in the audience? Seriously? Yeah? Seriously? Yeah? Star Trek The Next Generation, you know it? Okay, so I'm a big Trekkie. And I'm thinking, okay, Star Trek The Next Generation, we all know the main characters, Captain Picard. You know the main characters, right? But there's an awful lot of kind of characters that pop up now and again, like Q. You know, he's a good character, but he's not in very often. He's kind of a hidden character. And that's kind of where I thought about that when I was putting this session together. I work a lot with Microsoft 365, as you do, I'm sure. And I feel that there's a lot of hidden gems. So, first of all, who am I? I'm Andy Malone. I'm an MVP and also a Microsoft trainer from Scotland. I want to ask you, anybody know about Scotland? You know where Scotland is? Yeah? You know where it is, okay? What is Scotland famous for? Whiskey? Anything else? Haggis. Actually, I was thinking sheep. Okay, but that's another story. Okay, so one of my top 10 features for Office 365. Now, I'm sure that you're going to come up with some alternatives. There are so many features to think about. My friend JC over there, John Craddock, he's just discovered Microsoft PowerPoint Zoom, and I love it. So that would definitely be in my top 20. Talking about Azure AD Connect and all the identity stuff. Of course, they're all topics that you may know. But what are some of the ones that you may not be aware of? Well, some of these you'll know, some of them you may not know. But my top 10 is Microsoft Stream. Who uses Stream? Have you had a chance to look at it? It absolutely rocks. And it's available in all the SKUs. You can not just upload videos there. It does really clever things. It fully integrates with things like AI. So you've got AI, fully integrates with Teams. Now, you think, okay, do I have to do live broadcasts, or can I do live broadcasts? Now, if you've got premium accounts, so if you've got the enterprise accounts, you can do the live broadcasting, and you can stream out up to 10,000 people, which is very cool. Other than that, you can upload your videos, you can share them, you can integrate them, you can have guest users access them as well. One of the really cool features that I love is that it auto-generates captions for your videos. So you can just literally upload a video and it will auto-captionize it for you. Attendees can participate, you can integrate it into your live meetings. Seriously, if you've not had a look at Streams, it's really exciting. This is it in a live broadcast scenario. You can integrate with your users, you can use it on multiple devices, iOS, Android, PCs, Macs, and of course, online as well. So that's my number 10. So what's my number 9? So my number 9 has to be in identity. This is privileged identity management. Now, as a Microsoft administrator, in the past, you've had products like, of course, Windows Server, and we can have temporary administrators in Windows Server. And this is a very cool feature, because one of the things that we want to avoid is having too many global admins in our organization. So to avoid that, what we can do is use role-based admin control. Role-based admin control allows us to allocate certain rights and permissions, for example, account admins, billing admins, security admins, and so on. Now, if you just go through the standard Microsoft Office 365 portal, of course, you can add an administrator role to any user. Now, the problem with doing it there is that once you've assigned that role, it's a permanent role. Now, of course, potentially, that administrator could change roles in the organization, change jobs, and you may no longer need that role. So with privileged identity management, what you can do is you can temporarily assign him a role, or just in time. So this is where we combine just enough administration with just in time administration. So he can do the jobs that he needs to do just at a time when we need him to do it. Now you can tie things in like multi-factor authentication to your users. So when the user actually needs to perform an administrative task, they can, of course, be prompted for multi-factor authentication, which is definitely something you would want to implement. One of the really nice features about privileged identity management is, of course, that you can do regular access reviews. So does Bob Smith still need to be a member of the accounts management role? You can review that over a period of time, and you can link that in with kind of HR. So really nice feature. You can also do things like approver permissions as well. So if Bob decides to go on vacation and Mark's taking over his job, that you don't want Mark to have account admin privileges until he decides to use them. So once Mark logs in and goes into the admin portal, it activates for him. Now once it's activated, the clock can be ticking. You can do it in one of two ways. It will automatically just tick in and give him, let's say, 30 days access with that role. Or you can do it in a way where he will need an approver from, let's say, a global admin. So Mark's boss, for example. So either way, it's fully logged and it's fully audited, but very, very useful for security and compliance features. Number 8. Number 8 is awesome. I'm not a developer. I'll admit it. I'll openly admit it. It scares the hell out of me. I'm an IT pro. I don't know anything about development, but this is a fantastic tool. So if an email comes in with an attachment, let's say from the tax office or a tax authority, and you want to keep a copy of that, you can simply create a very, very simple flow that will move that particular attachment into OneDrive, let's say. Or if a particular email comes in from a customer with a little bit of interesting news, you might want to set up a tweet or something like that. But the idea is, if something happens, then a series of events will take place. So Microsoft Flow is incredibly easy to use. And in fact, if you go to your portal, every Office 365 account has access to this. And there are a whole bunch of kind of preset templates that you can use, which make it even simpler. Now, of course, you can overcomplicate it. You can code it as well. So if you are a developer, you can obviously create your own flows, and you can make it as simple or as complex as you want. But Flow rocks. Okay, number 7. I love this, and it amazes me how many people don't use this. This is Microsoft 365 message encryption. Now, message encryption is slightly different to your traditional encryption technologies. So what we have here is a sender. So Bob basically designs an email, and as an administrator, you have your traditional transport rules. But what Bob can also do, because this is containing sensitive information, he can essentially manually decide to encrypt this email. So this encrypts it with Office 365 message encryption. And when it's sent, the email is sent to the user or the recipient. The recipient opens the email, but he can't read the email. It comes in as an attachment. So he double-clicks the attachment, and the attachment essentially forwards him to a portal. Now, in the portal, he's requested to authenticate. And essentially, this is what the authentication looks like. He'll get a one-time passcode, and he will authenticate. And the very cool thing about this is it doesn't just work with Microsoft 365. It can work with, if you have a Google account or a Yahoo account, you can access these emails as well. But if you're dealing with sensitive information, then 365 message encryption absolutely rocks. Okay, so what's my number 6 in my list? Okay, Microsoft Search. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm a Microsoft MVP, so we tend to say it like it is. And in the past, we kind of see mixed results with search. But I have to say, this next generation of Microsoft Search, now that they've combined it with AI, absolutely rocks. It doesn't just help you search for documents. You can use natural language. And it also fully integrates with every single Microsoft application. So if you're using Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or Excel, or if you're using the mobile app, you can search everything. And you don't have to just search for, as I say, documents. You can search conversations. You can search messaging. You can search for attachments. You can search for people within the organization. And it gives you a really rich experience. So Microsoft Search is definitely up there in my top 10. Okay, so number 5, I love this. Okay, as an administrator, how many of you deal with small business, by the way? How many small businesses are out here? Okay, a few. So I've done a lot of consulting, and you often find that a number of small businesses, they'll open up a Microsoft 365 account, and the person who creates the account is the global admin. Now, the problem with that is they don't, for example, use multi-factor authentication, and from a security perspective, it causes issues. So some of the things that you can do here, first of all, you don't need to be a global admin. In fact, you don't need to be an administrator to use your regular Microsoft Office 365 account. And in fact, I would say it's my number 1 tip. Don't use your regular account as a global admin. Now, in terms of changing admin rights, there are only a few groups that can do it. So global admins, of course, account admins, and user admins, I should say. Now, another tip for administration, of course, is you don't need to create your users with licenses. So if you're doing bulk deployments of users, simply create them license-free. Now, of course, in the portal, it says it's not recommended, and the question is, will it still allow my user to log in? And the answer is, of course, yes, it does. So you can log in as a user, but the only option that you will have is the Microsoft Store icon, and you will need to go, obviously, and purchase a service. But the key thing is, you can log in, and you're not being billed. So if you're doing mass deployments to, let's say, schools or universities, you can set up the accounts in advance. Now, one of the really cool things about Microsoft licensing is that you can change licenses on the fly. So if you come in as a business premium, for example, you can simply change the license to an E3 or an E5 without deleting the account, without migrating the account. Very, very simple and easy to do. Also, admins don't have to be regular users. In fact, an administrator doesn't even have to have an Office 365 license. You can even have a guest admin, a guest user who is a global admin within your organization. So by using a separate administrator account, you're protecting your regular user accounts, and of course you can then enforce technologies like multi-factor authentication. So really nice tips there. This is just a quick overview of some of the admin roles and what they can do. So as I said, global admin, the user management admin, these are the kind of the 2 roles that can assign and remove licenses. So what's my number 4? Real-time co-authoring. I got to tell you, I've been working with SharePoint ever since the Digital Dashboard project in 2001. Some of you may remember that. Some of you look as old as me, so there we go. So the Digital Dashboard project, or SharePoint, in 2001 was all about collaboration. And I think that rather than having different versions, of course, we've still got versioning control, but collaborating on documents nowadays is so much more interesting because you can actually see it happening in real time. So if you're using things like Excel, PowerPoint, Word, and so on, you can collaborate in real time. Again, I'd put in a Microsoft Docs link at the bottom there to give you more information on that. Very cool feature. Number 3, Microsoft's best kept secret is bookings. So if any of you work with small businesses and you've got to do bookings, whether it's a half-hour appointment booking system or a full day appointment, bookings is absolutely fantastic. There is an app, you can monitor it, it fully integrates with things like Teams and Outlook and SharePoint. Absolutely fantastic tool. You can monitor things like your billing, your hours, your usage, and it's free. It's included in the product. Absolutely superb product. So number 2, who uses PowerShell? We all use PowerShell. I want a PowerShell solution that's really simple. This is the Microsoft 365 PowerShell CLI. It's absolutely free. You can get it from GitHub today. It's an alternative to regular PowerShell. And it's like PowerShell, honestly, you can be a blind one-legged penguin on crack cocaine and use this. It's so simple to use, okay? Very, very simple to use. You can download it here, check it out. Interface is great, very, very powerful. And again, I'll make sure that you'll have all of these slides afterwards so you can download them. So what's my number 1? Well, going back to identity, I'm a security guy. So if I said to you key escrow, in the Western world, many systems have what we call key escrow. In other words, if you encrypted your files and left the company, then as an administrator, I would need to recover those files somehow. Now, of course, we've had that feature in Windows Server for years. Now, we have it in Microsoft Azure. It's called the Microsoft Azure Super User account. So if you're using tools like Azure Information Protection, which of course is rights management, you've got to be able to get your stuff back if something goes wrong. So, and again, really, really simple to do. You need to switch it on, so it's actually switched off by default. So essentially go into PowerShell, open up the Azure Active Directory Rights Management PowerShell commandlet, connect to the service, and then get dash the command there, ADRM super user. So once it's activated, so you then add in the account that you're logging in as. Then obviously once it's enabled, what this now does, it now opens up the super user portal. So once the portal is open, you can now unlock the user's encrypted data, okay? Just to remember one thing, by the way, remember to switch it back on again, yes? So you switch it on, you switch it off, go and recover the files that you need, and then you basically switch it back on again. More details, again, there's some links in my presentation, but that is absolutely my top tip. So if you're ever concerned about, do I use Azure Information Protection, I've heard a lot of customers being very concerned about losing their data. Now you don't have to be, because now you can recover. So there you go. That's my top 10 tips. Now, whether you agree, I'm sure that you've got many other tips of your own, but I hope that this very quick 20 minutes has been worth it, all right? Now, tomorrow, I've got a session quite a bit deeper than this. I'm going to do some secrets of cloud app security. So I'll see you for that in the morning, okay? But in the meantime, I'm Andy Malone. Thank you very much.